Welcome to episode 87 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg, one of the two co-hosts, and I am the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, where we believe that every student and recent grad deserves a great career and that it should be easy and inexpensive for employers to hire them. As usual, I am joined here today by my other co-host, Jeanette Leeds. Jeanette, welcome to Thursday.
Thank you. We are another Thursday, episode 87. I'm Jeanette Leeds, an HR tech entrepreneur, advisor, and we are here to talk about the hot topic that everyone keeps on happening, and everyone's talking about how employers are handling AI assisted solutions. And we have here with us today Kyle Samuels. He has been in recruiting for, over 2 decades with 1,400 companies. He's an expert on talent, hiring, retention, and he is also the founder and CEO of Creative Talent Endeavor. So welcome, Kyle. So happy to have you.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we kick this off? Give us a little bit more on your background and what Creative Talent Endeavors is.
Yeah, so I spent as you mentioned, the last 20 years, you see all these grays, the last 20 plus years, either in executive search or HR. Company is 8 years old. I actually was very lucky. I was on the HR leadership team at Taco Bell. The mentor that I had at Taco at the time, we could just have open conversations, told him that love it here, being paid well, fun work, but I want to start my own firm. Talked about it for 3 months, eventually said, listen, you seem like this is something you really want to do. We would be proud to be your first client. And so
nice.
As we all know from recruiting, to me, and we do, so a little bit about the company, we are a retained executive search firm. We work at the director level and above. And most of the people that we go out with are already working, right? And so for me, one of the benefits was that my first client was going to be a client that I've never had to explain. And we still work to this, in 8 years, no one said, oh, tell me more about this Taco Bell and what they do. And so think about it, right? Like if you're not looking for a job and I come to you and I say, hey, do you want to be the head of IT technology at Taco Bell? It's yes or no. You know what Taco Bell is, you know, it's a big company versus, hey, there's a startup. Now you have to say, who is the startup? Who is the founder? Who are they backed by? Do I want to put my career in the hands of a 22-year-old who had a great idea 2 years ago, but now they're supposed to run this company, right? And so I figured if I couldn't be successful recruiting for Taco Bell, then this is not the career path for me. And then luckily, 8 years later, we've been okay.
That's awesome. And it's a good demonstration of the importance of an employer brand.
Facts.
Yeah.
Super facts.
Yeah. So, you mentioned that some of the clients that you work with are smaller, right? Some of them are very large.
Mm-hmm.
Probably fair to say that any employer that's done any hiring in the last year has received a resume that was written either entirely or with the assistance of AI. Whether it's a chat GPT or just putting something into like Google and like, what's another word for blah, blah, blah. There's some assistance. Before we jumped on, I was talking to Jeanette, like when I was a teenager, my parents would help me write a resume. Lots of people have like siblings or cousins or whatever. So to me, AI is kind of like that. When you're advising these talent acquisition leaders and they're struggling with AI assisted resumes, what are you telling them?
So the biggest thing I ask them is, well, how are you scanning your resumes, right? Are you using AI or are you using human beings, right? So AI to AI, right? I know that sounds weird, but as we talked about before, it depends how the AI has been coded to look, right? And when you think about certain roles, it's going to look for keywords, metrics, years of experience, etc. And so, as you mentioned, it has become more and more common for people to say, hey, ChatGPT, Profundity, any AI tool, doesn't matter which one it is, right? To say, here's the job description that I want, or the job description that I'm interested in, the job. Here is my resume. Adapt my resume to be the closest fit as possible for this. Now, depending on how much flex you have, right? ChatGPT could just make up a lie resume and just be like, oh yeah, you've done everything here and we're done. Or it could say, well, it says here that you led this initiative. They want to make sure that you've had an $80 million P&L. So put the number in there, things like that, right? And so if you're working with AI and AI, sometimes you're missing out on people because they're not getting the nuances. But if you get a human being, then you're more likely to have someone who says, wait a minute, this looks weird. As I'm reading this resume, it's almost like you cut and pasted from our job description, right? And so whereas AI might be like, this is great, what a hit, a human being might be like, this is weird. You're wording it the exact same way you've done it. Now I have concerns.
And I've seen
So
100 just like this. Yeah.
exactly. Did you see that? Like, wait, it looks like a group of people got together and said, let's all apply to the same job together. So those are some of the catches.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point about the importance of having people in the process, whether it's like you and your own resume and your application, and on the other side, because you got to catch those things because the AI doesn't always interpret everything in the right way. I think that's so incredibly important. You know, what's your take on, as again, but earlier Steve and I were talking about like, hey, sometimes people have help with their resumes from people, other human beings. Some people can actually pay people to help them with their resumes, right? And here AI, again, it democratizes. Ooh, I had trouble with that word. It in many ways. I think it's interesting. Are you starting to see from employers that you're working with where like, hey, they're okay with, as long as you're editing and having that human element of like, yes, I'm having AI rewrite my resume and make it better, and I'm checking it. Do you feel like they're okay with that from what you're seeing? Or they're like, no, like no AI, like that's
not only okay, they expect it. So in I'd say at least 50% of the jobs that we do, and again, we do HR, marketing, finance, etc. They want people who have some experience using AI, right? Doesn't mean you need to be a super coder or something like that, but someone who knows how to, for example, use AI to make their job more efficient and to save time, save money, etc. And so I've actually had the opposite, where people have looked at resumes and said, in this day and age where you can literally go to ChatGPT and say, here's my resume, check for grammar mistakes. There's Grammarly, there's all types of tools. So if someone is not using it, they're just like, why aren't you, right? We're not talking about having AI write your college midterm, or your report. That's different. This is a tool to use, so why wouldn't you use it? You know what I mean? It would be like someone still faxing and not using email. It's discordant and seems weird.
Wait, I'm not supposed to be faxing? Darn it. I did not have that on my 2025 bingo card.
It's like, please tell me you don't have a fax machine.
Not anymore, but boy, was I excited when I got my first one.
Man.
So I would love, one of the reasons I was excited to talk with you is because I think you've got some real insight into how a lot of different TA leaders are thinking in a lot of different organizations. One of the things that occurred to me, and I could be totally wrong, and if I am, tell me this. 2 years ago, if you advertised a job and you got 100 applications, and today you get 150, a lot of employers are complaining about AI generated applications. These aren't real people. We're getting bombarded by AI, blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking, yeah, there's a little bit of that. But I also am thinking what's actually happening is that the AI is helping candidates accurately and in a compelling manner bring the skills that they have to the fore, like so that the employer can see that this person actually is qualified. Where 2 years ago, the resume would have been written so poorly that the employers couldn't see that. Am I off base? Is this actually, I think Jeanette used the word democratizing.
Yeah.
Is that a big part of what's happening?
I think that's a super big part of it for sure. And I think that some of the reason people are like, oh my gosh, like it's fake people or fake candidates or bots is because on so many sites, it's easy, one-click apply, right? So you can go and do it. And so lots of times, I feel like it's always Business Insider, but you see someone like, this is the picture, and it's like, I applied to 1,000 jobs and I haven't heard from anyone. Well, it's like, first off, were you really a fit for 1,000 jobs? Let's be realistic. Unless you're like a CSR or like you applied to every one of those, like you're applying from everything from the VP of Finance to the social media intern. And so the two things happen. Number one, you're only going to be a fit for some of those, but what sometimes not employees, but candidates don't understand is that, having run corporate TA, we can see everything that you've applied to. So if I see you applied to our VP of Finance search, but also our director of supply chain, unless you're just this magical hybrid, I'm just like, you're just trying to get a job. And now we look at you as not a serious person. And so everything goes cold because you're applying for everything, right? I think that people, and I get when you don't have a job, you're like, I gotta shotgun this and put everything out there. But if you're doing it at the same company, they can see that. And that is a turnoff because what do you want to do? You want to be in marketing, you want to be in finance, you've applied for everything we have. We appreciate you want to work with our company, but take a more targeted approach. And so I think that's what's happening though. People are able to say, use AI to say, here's all these jobs. And you can, it's very easy to say, all right, here's job number 1, switch my resume for this one. Here's job number 2, switch my resume for this one. And then it's just like, it gets confusing, but it makes it easier for people to apply for more jobs. And at least on the cover, have them be like, oh, wow, this person could be a fit as you start to read down the resume.
It's interesting. So flip it around onto, because again, as Stephen said, you speak to so many different talent acquisition leaders. Like, what advice do you wish you could give to all of them, in that around this high volume and how to handle, the influx of the AI age?
Utilize AI, but you need to have a human person like a referee or someone in there to make sure that you're not losing time. I won't say losing time, but you're not losing great candidates because maybe they didn't use the right word, right? And so again, synonyms. If the language model knows revenue, this is going to be silly, but they know revenue, but they don't know profit. If someone uses the word profit to talk about revenue, they might get dinged because they didn't say revenue, where a human being be like, oh, totally got it, right? So you need to have some kind of referee that's human in there to make sure that the process runs for now. I'm sure the robots in 10 years will be doing all of it, but for now, that's super important because you can we're humans. At the end of the day, yes, we can use technology, but we're human beings, and the resume is just one part. How that person shows up in person, because there will be in-person interviews, that means everything. And so trying to figure out how do we how do we best maximize our results so that this person that on paper looks great, we feel could also be a part of the company moving forward in person. So that goes to the cultural part, right? How do you look at a resume and find out things that could be cultural norms? So for example, if you're a manufacturing company and you're coming from a manufacturing company and this is a retail company, there are things that could be missed, even though that person, let's say they're an accountant. GAAP is GAAP, accounting is accounting. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, but the AI could say, well, they're from a different company. Yeah. We can't talk to them, where it's like, no, they would be a great accountant for you.
Yeah. I like what you're saying too, that AI today is going to be different than what it'll be 2 years from now. 2 years from now, it's going to be better.
Oh my goodness.
Let's be clear. Yeah. In like 2 months from now, the models are almost daily updating. It's actually pretty incredible, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think
a lot to learn.
I think we have time for one more. I'm going to grab it because Jeanette, you got the last one, so my turn. And if you don't like it, I'm just going to mute you. Just kidding. So again, you work a lot, and creative talent works a lot with some employers doing executive search. Some of those employers are doing high volume hiring. Where do you see today the biggest benefit for employers using AI to process all of these applications?
Using it is adjacent to human beings, right? Because just like in anything in life, right? There's speed and there's security or, safety, right? And so lots of things in life. We sign up for an app. We don't read the T's and C's. Sure, I just want to get into it, right? We're giving all our information away so that things can be easier, right? And so with AI, yes, it's speed. You can go through 5,000 applicants in minutes, but have you lost that person who could have been that rock star that helped change your company because you haven't had a human being, right? Because you only have it keyed to go to certain schools or certain companies, et cetera. You need someone to say, wait a minute, this person didn't go to that school, but look at what they've done. Or we didn't know this company existed, but look at what they've done, making sure that they get a fair shot. And it's hard to do with high volume recruiting, but I think it's still important because you're just missing out on some not fundamental, but some foundational talent that can really help your organization.
Awesome.
I love it. It's a great point. It's all about, it comes down to skills, right? And now the rise of all skills-based hiring versus let's just think about, what the academy companies should be, or, you know, it's not just about schools or where you went or who you do. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's very,
It goes back to that
yes.
democratization, right? Like if you can make it as open to all types of people and they get
Yeah.
that opportunity, then I think that's the best way to go. And again, AI and like anything else, technology could have some biases in it. And it could be school things, it could be location things, right? Like we're only looking for local people, but you don't know that the human being is like in the cover letter, hey, my husband's moving to Dallas. That's why I'm interested, even though I'm in Phoenix right now. AI is going to see that Phoenix zip code. You're gone.
It's a
Sorry,
great
Jeanette.
point, especially with high volume, you
Yeah.
know, where a lot of it's like, oh, if the commuting is too far, that's a turn down criteria. It's a great point. Very good
Mhm.
Yeah.
point.
Kyle Samuels putting the human back in human resources.
Woo!
I love it. Let's do it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No, it's been great. Thank you, guys. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Kyle. Thank you, Stephen.
All right,
Until
have a
next
good one.
time. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye, guys. Later.